Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about charging the Mini Cooper SE. Now the Cooper SE is a really cool all-electric Mini Cooper. It is a blast to drive. I just spent a week in this guy and I tell you, I don't want to give it back. It's so much fun. Now, the one negative the Mini Cooper SE has is its range. It's only EPA range rated at 114 miles per charge, making it a very low range electric vehicle. Now it has a 32.6 kilowatt hour battery pack, but of that only 29.8 kilowatt hour is usable. So you only get about 29 kilowatt hour to use. So that means you're going to be charging this guy a lot if you own a Mini Cooper SE. Basically, whenever you have the opportunity to plug it in, you're going to plug it in because you want to make the most out of that 29 kilowatt hour battery pack. So today we're going to talk about charging the Mini Cooper SE. We're going to go over the different levels of charging. We're going to talk about the standard equipment that comes with the Cooper SE to charge it. We're going to talk about public charging and what you need to know about using level 2 and DC fast chargers for the Cooper SE. And then we're going to explain how to set up scheduled charging if you're on a time of use plan. Maybe you want to save a little money by charging when your electricity rates are low. But first, don't forget, click that subscribe button, ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming content here on State of Charge. Before we get going here today, I want to let everyone know that this video is really specific for the North American market. We're going to talk charging here, and charging, unfortunately, is a little different in different markets. In Europe, for instance, there's a different electric service that comes standard in people's houses. It's more powerful than what we have here in the US. There's actually even different connectors that are used to charge the cars. So we're going to be concentrating on charging the Cooper SE in North America in this video here. So we're going to start off with the standard charging equipment that comes with the Cooper SE, which I have right here in front of me. This is a level 1 portable charging cord. And I call it level 1 because there's 3 different levels of charging with electric vehicles. Level 1 is when you charge from a regular 120 volt household outlet. You can see this has a regular household plug on it. I can plug this in any outlet and charge the Cooper SE. Level 2 is when you're charging from a 240 volt source, which to give you an example, what you might have in your home already that needs a 240 volt source, an electric clothes dryer or an electric kitchen range. And then the next level is DC fast charging. Sometimes people call it level 3 charging. That's not really the proper term. We have level 1, level 2, and DC fast charging. DC fast charging is very high speed charging that you wouldn't be doing at your home. DC fast chargers are only found in public places along major corridors, which we'll get into a little later. So let's start off with the portable charging cord. Now, all electric vehicles come with charging equipment. Some of them are better than others. What Mini gives standard with the Cooper SE really is probably on the lower end of the equipment. It's a level 1 cord, as I mentioned earlier. Some electric vehicles now are coming with level 1/level 2 cords. And what you do is this plug here would pull out and you can plug in a plug that then would plug into a 240 volt outlet. So you can charge it from either a level 1 or a level 2 source, and the level 2 sources are going to charge the electric vehicle a lot faster. That's not the case with Cooper SE. It's just a level 1 source, and it's actually a very weak one. It can only deliver 10 amps. Most of these, when they come standard with electric vehicles, can deliver 12 amps, which is just a little bit more power, but it does make a difference if you're relying on this to charge the car. You'll notice it has, the connector here is called the J1772 connector. This is the connector that all electric vehicles in North America use for level 1 and level 2 charging, except for Tesla. Tesla has their own proprietary connector, and they use the Tesla connector, but all other electric vehicles use this J1772 for level 1 and level 2 charging. Okay, so I said that level 1 charging is slow. And this unit here, as I mentioned, is a 10 amp unit. It'll deliver just a little bit more than 1 kilowatt to the electric vehicle. In the case of the Mini Cooper, as I mentioned earlier, it has about a 30 kilowatt hour battery pack. It's actually 29 kilowatt hour is the usable capacity. So if you're only getting about 1 kilowatt delivered to the vehicle, it's going to take nearly 30 hours to fully charge the vehicle, more than a whole day. So that's why most people elect to upgrade and get a level 2 charging station for their home. Although if you don't drive a lot, if you don't drive a lot of miles, you can probably get away with this. Figure on this delivering somewhere between 3 and 4 miles of range for every hour it's plugged in and charging. Now, it depends on how efficient your driving is. It also depends on the temperature. When it's cold outside, the electric vehicles don't go quite as far, so you'll get a little bit less. But for people that only maybe commute 20 or 30 miles a day, you might be able to get away with charging on a level 1 charger at home. And then if you're in public and you're going longer distance, you could just find a DC fast charger. But you can survive on charging level 1 at home if you don't drive a lot. However, most Mini Cooper SE owners are going to elect to have level 2 charging at home if they have the ability to install an outlet or directly hardwire the unit. And level 2 charging is going to recharge the car a lot quicker. We're going to get into that in the next segment. So while the Cooper SE can charge from a 120 volt source level 1 charging, it's slow. Most Cooper SE owners are going to want to get a level 2 home charging station like these on the wall behind me. And I put them up here to give you an example of the variety of different charging stations available. This is the ChargePoint Home Flex. It's a 50 amp home charging station. This is the Lectron Wallbox 32, a 32 amp charging station. And on the end there, that's the Tesla wall connector, which is a 48 amp charging station. Now, these two units here plug into an outlet. The Tesla wall connector is directly hardwired. You can either hardwire or plug in your level 2 charging station. And they come from a variety of different vendors. There's dozens of them available, and they all have different power levels. So you want to make sure you pair the power level from your charging station with what the Cooper SE can accept. And the Cooper SE has an onboard charger that can accept up to 7.4 kilowatt. This unit here can deliver almost 12 kilowatt. This can deliver 7.7 kilowatt, and the Tesla wall connector can deliver about 11.5 kilowatt. So you want to understand how much power the car can take in when you're making a purchasing decision on your home charging equipment. But you also want to be cognizant of the fact that your next electric vehicle might accept more power. So if you're shopping for a home charging solution for your Mini Cooper SE, I wouldn't discourage you from getting a unit that's a little bit higher powered than what the car can accept. Say a 40 amp charging station that can deliver 9.6 kilowatt, even though the Cooper SE can only take in 7.4. That's because your next electric vehicle may be able to accept more power. And you don't have to worry about buying a charging station that can deliver more power than the Cooper SE can take in, because the car always dictates how much power it takes. So even if it's a much more powerful charging station, it will only take in as much power as it can safely accept. So you don't have to worry if the charging station is more powerful. Another thing I want to point out is, as I pointed out before with the level 1 charger that comes with the car, all of these two units here have the J1772 connector, which is what all electric vehicles that's sold in North America, except for Tesla vehicles, come standard with. So any electric vehicle charging equipment you would buy would have this J1772 connector. You don't have to worry, it doesn't have the right connector. The only way that it wouldn't is if you bought a Tesla charging station. But let's say you already have a Tesla charging station. Maybe you have a Tesla in the house already, and you want to charge the Mini Cooper SE with your Tesla charging station. Now, as I mentioned, the Tesla has a different connector here. This is the Tesla connector, much smaller and kind of more sleek than the J1772. I actually think it's a better solution, but this won't plug into your Cooper SE. So what do? There are adapters available, and there's quite a bit of them available on the market. I have the ones that I recommend listed in the description of this video if you want to get one. And they look like this. Basically, you plug the Tesla connector in on this end, and then this side here plugs into the Cooper SE. This is a J1772. This is called the Tesla to J1772 adapter. And they're available from a variety of vendors at a variety of price levels. The ones that I recommend I know are well built, and I recommend them for a reason, because there's also some cheap ones out there that really aren't made very well and probably won't last long. So if you are thinking about getting one of these so you can use a Tesla wall connector for your Cooper SE, I recommend taking a look at the ones that I have listed in the description below. And there's another use for these, not just for charging on a Tesla wall connector at home, but this also gives you access to the thousands of Tesla destination chargers that Tesla has installed all over the country. They have them at, well, destinations. They're called destination chargers. Places like hotels, country clubs, movie theaters, restaurants, public parking lots. They're all over the place. And having an adapter like this allows you to access those Tesla destination chargers. Now, they're typically run or owned and managed by the property that they're installed on. So you want to get permission to plug in first, especially if you're not patronizing that hotel or restaurant wherever it's located. Don't just pull up, plug in, and walk away, because you can come out and find that your car's been towed or ticketed. They're on private property, so always get permission before you use a Tesla destination charger. But having one of these in the back of your Cooper SE is going to enable you to plug into thousands of Tesla destination chargers that are sprinkled all over the country. Okay, now that we've covered home charging, let's talk a little bit about charging the Cooper SE in public. Now, in public, you'll likely find level 2 charging stations and DC fast charging. Level 2 charging stations are going to charge the vehicle basically about the same speed as level 2 chargers would at home. It might be a little bit slower because most level 2 charging stations that are in public use commercial electric, which is 208 volts. So you're going to get a little bit less power delivered to the vehicle. You might charge it somewhere around 6 kilowatts, maybe as much as 6.5, a little bit less than the Cooper SE can accept. Now, how do you find these charging stations? Well, first of all, the navigation system does help you in finding charging stations, but I highly recommend you download some apps. PlugShare and ChargeWay are two very good apps that help you locate charging stations in public. They give you a lot of useful tips. The PlugShare, for instance, is crowdsourced, so the users add comments like they'll say, this charging station is broken, or, came here, I charged successfully, and you can kind of see if the charging station is reliable, because unfortunately, public charging stations sometimes can be unreliable. And also, the cost could vary from charging station to charging station. Some of the networks, like EVgo and Electrify America, have consistent pricing because the network itself dictates the price. But there's other networks out there like ChargePoint, for instance, which is a large public charging network. They sell the equipment to the site owner or host. The host then sets the price. So you can go to one ChargePoint station on this block and pay $1.50 an hour to charge, let's say. And you can go to the very next block and it can be $3.50 an hour to charge. It can be double or more. So the apps also tell you how much it costs to charge there. So they're very useful. You definitely want to know what you're paying before you arrive at the charging station. And also finding out little tips like if the station was just reported broken a day or two earlier, you might want to avoid that. All very useful. But in order to use these charging stations, you do need to join the network. Well, let me qualify that. You don't absolutely need to. You could on the spot call. Most of the charging stations have like a 1-800 number where you can call and give them your credit card number and activate a charging session. But it really becomes a hassle. Only do that if you really aren't going to use public charging stations often. If you think you're going to be using public charging stations, find out what networks are in your area and then join those networks. Because then you'll have your account with your app and you'll basically just plug the vehicle in and either tap your phone against a charging station or open up the app and swipe charge, and it'll just connect to the vehicle and start charging the car. It'll be seamless. You won't have to make a phone call, pull out a credit card. It becomes a hassle if you're not a member of the network. And that's for level 2 charging. Now for DC fast charging, it's basically the same as far as joining the networks. You definitely want to arrive at the charging station ready to plug in and not have to fumble, especially if it's in the rain or if you're in a rush with activating a charging session. So I definitely recommend joining networks if you know what networks are in your area. Electrify America, for instance, has the largest network of high-speed DC fast chargers in the country, at least here in the Northeast. That's really the most dominant network that's out there. But EVgo also has a very comprehensive network of DC fast chargers, and depending on what region of the country you're in, there might be more EVgo chargers in your area. Again, use the apps that I mentioned earlier and take a look at the map and see what's in your area or where you might be traveling to, and join those networks before you pull up. Now, let's talk a little bit about DC fast charging. We already talked about level 1 charging, which is very slow. You're going to get somewhere around 3 miles of range per hour. Level 2 charging is much faster because you can deliver up to 7.4 kilowatt to the vehicle, which is 7 times the amount of power that level 1 charging is going to add. Now, in DC fast charging, you can charge at rates up to 50 kilowatt. So, there you go. It's 7 times faster than level 2. So, but the one thing you really need to know about DC fast charging is the amount of power that the vehicle takes in will depend on the state of charge. Level 1 and level 2 charging pretty much holds the same amount of power for the whole charging session until you're up to around 98 or 99% charged, and then the charging rate slowly tapers off just to top off the battery. But with DC fast charging, so much power is getting pumped into the battery pack, it can't hold the maximum charge rate all the way up to 99% like you can on level 1 or level 2. It's going to start slowing down at about 75% state of charge. So you get your fastest charging from 0 up to about 75% state of charge. Now, BMW says that it takes 36 minutes to charge from 0 to 80% on a 50 kilowatt DC fast charger. I've done many DC fast charging sessions on the Cooper SE, and I found that claim to be absolutely true, if not on the conservative side. I've charged from 0 to 80%, I think in 33 minutes, a couple minutes faster than what BMW promises. And at that rate, you're taking in somewhere between 2 and 3 miles of range for every minute you charge. Now, I will add that if it's very cold and the battery is really cold, it's going to charge slower. That's not just Cooper SE. All electric vehicles work that way. When the battery pack is really cold, if you had it parked outside overnight and it's in the winter, it's going to take a little while before the charging rate gets up to its maximum peak because very cold battery cells can't accept the full power. So understand that if you plug into a DC fast charger and it's really cold and you're not charging at the rate you expected, it's because the battery is just a little bit too cold to take in the full amount of power. One more thing I want to add about DC fast charging, the Cooper SE uses the CCS or combo plug. There's actually 3 different connectors used here in North America for DC fast charging. I mentioned earlier for level 1 and level 2 charging, there's only 2 connectors. The J1772 that everybody uses except Tesla, and Tesla's connector. For DC fast charging, it's a little different. You've got the CCS combo plug. You've got Tesla with their proprietary connector. They use that for both level 1, level 2, and DC fast charging, which they call supercharging. And also this 3rd connector called CHAdeMO. Now, the CHAdeMO plug was launched by the Asian manufacturers, Nissan, Mitsubishi. They started selling electric cars before there was this CCS combo plug even invented. But since that's come out now, it's becoming the dominant standard, and the manufacturers that had used the CHAdeMO plug are all transitioning to use CCS, the combo plug here in North America. The problem is there are some charging stations out there still that are CHAdeMO only. So that's another reason to use your apps before you go to a charging station. You can make sure that it's a CCS charging station and you'll be able to plug in. You can set filters in your apps so it won't even show you where CHAdeMO only charging stations are, so you won't make a mistake and end up going to them. That's a really important thing to do when you get these apps, is set the type of vehicle you have with the connector that it's used, so you don't end up at a charging station one day when you really need to charge and you find out you can't plug in. Now, as far as DC fast charging with Tesla, I mentioned earlier, on the level 2 Tesla charging station, you can charge the Cooper SE with that Tesla to J1772 adapter I mentioned. And by the way, I put a link to purchase that adapter in the description of this video if somebody's interested in buying one. I have a few that I recommend, so I put those links in the description. However, while that does work just fine on Tesla wall connectors and Tesla destination chargers, it doesn't work on Tesla superchargers. Those are the DC fast chargers that Tesla has installed all over for Tesla vehicles. You cannot use an adapter and charge a Cooper SE. Only Tesla vehicles can use Tesla superchargers. Now, Tesla has announced that they're going to open up the network for other manufacturers, and they actually have done it in some places in Europe, where they're letting other electric vehicles use the Tesla supercharger network. It's some pilot programs. And Tesla's promised they're going to bring that to North America also, but it hasn't happened yet. And when it does happen, you will have to get an adapter. It'll be a special adapter for supercharging, because the adapter that I mentioned earlier, that's only for level 2 charging. It wouldn't be able to handle the power that a Tesla supercharger could deliver to the Cooper SE. The Mini Cooper SE allows you to set a schedule for charging, so you can take advantage of time of use electricity plans and also precondition the vehicle. To do that, you click on the My Mini icon, and then you scroll down to Plan Charging Climate Control and click on that. Now, you can see here that I have a time slot already set up from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. That's when most time of use electricity plans are active, after midnight. But check with your local electric provider. If they have a time of use plan, you might want to consider joining it, because you can charge your car and pay a lot less with your electricity when you're charging it overnight. So as you can see right now, it's on charge immediately. So when you plug in and that icon is set, the vehicle's always just going to charge. But if you wanted to take advantage of your low-cost time of use plan, you'd scroll down here to low-cost charging and click that. Now, you can only enable this if you've done everything first, and that means set up a time slot. So I'll scroll down to the time slot. You could see here when it starts and when it ends. I have it starting at 12 a.m. and ending at 6 a.m. And then down here, you can precondition for departure. If it's in the winter, you might want to click this precondition button, because what's going to happen is the vehicle is going to warm up, and you'll leave in the morning and it'll be all warmed up. Now, you need to set your departure time here for the preconditioning, so the vehicle knows when you're going to leave and when it needs to be nice and warm, or cool down if it was really hot in the summer. But one of the interesting things I found is you have to set your departure date even just to use low-cost charging, which is kind of odd. Most electric vehicles don't work that way. You can set low-cost charging without having a departure time set in, but Mini makes you set in a departure time. And I've read on some of the forums that some Mini Cooper SE owners aren't happy about that, because what'll happen is if you're at a very low state of charge when you plug in at night and you want the vehicle to wait until 12 a.m. to start charging, if you don't have a powerful charging station and it takes a little bit longer to charge, what it will do is it might not wait until 12 a.m. to start charging. It might start charging at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night. If the vehicle decides that with the charging station that you have, it won't be fully charged by 7 a.m. when you want to leave. But most people might not care. They don't need it fully charged if they're just driving to work, but you can't override it. The car will start charging before your low-cost charging plan starts. And that's kind of something that Mini should work on, in my opinion, and set that up differently. Now, when you click on the next departure time here, it allows you to set different departure times. One might be for, say, when you want to leave in the morning, and the other one might want to be when you're getting in your car at night to drive home. And when you click on this here, you can set the days. I have it set Monday through Friday, for example, but you can set any hours and any days you want and have 3 different charging schedules. And finally, we're going to come down here to set charging current. You can have on level 1 and level 2 charging, you can set it to accept less power than what the maximum that the vehicle will take in. Most people are not going to want to do this. You would do this if you think that you're plugged into a circuit somewhere that couldn't deliver the amount of power that the car is going to call for. But in most instances, you're not going to use that. I used it once when I was charging on level 1 when I was staying at a bed and breakfast, and they let me plug into this outlet that they had outside their garage, and it looked like a kind of rinky-dink old outlet, and I was afraid I was going to overdraw the current, so I set it down to a reduced charge. I was going to be there for a couple of days, so it didn't matter anyway. I was going to be charged up anyway. But in most instances, you're going to want to set your level 1 and level 2 charging to maximum, because you want the vehicle to charge as fast as it can. And that's it for these settings that you have here for time of use, delayed charging, and also to reduce the charge current that the vehicle takes in. All right, so let's quickly recap the 3 levels of charging for the Cooper SE. Level 1 charging is basic home charging, and you use the supplied level 1 charging cord that Mini gives you with the vehicle. Now, BMW says that you only add about 2% battery per hour. I found that it might be a little bit more than that. I think they were being conservative. And in my findings, it adds about 3 to 4 miles of range per hour. Jumping over to level 2 charging. Now, that would be at home and public charging. The Mini Cooper SE can take in up to 7.4 kilowatt of power, and it will add 20% of battery per hour. I found that on level 2 charging, if you have a level 2 charging station that can deliver the full 7.4 kilowatt that the Cooper SE can take in, it takes somewhere between 4.5 and 5 hours to fully charge the vehicle if the battery is fully depleted, and it adds somewhere between 25 to 30 miles of range per hour, depending on how efficient you drive, of course, and the temperature outside. When it's colder, you get a little bit less miles per hour. And then we'll go over here to what BMW calls level 3, which, as I said earlier, it's really not called level 3. That's the wrong name. It's DC fast charging. The Cooper SE can accept up to 50 kilowatts, and BMW says that you can get up to 80% battery in 36 minutes. My DC fast charging test has shown the Cooper SE can go from 0 to 80% in 33 minutes, a little bit better than what BMW promises. And I actually have another video up here on State of Charge that has recordings of me charging the Cooper SE from 10 to 80% and also from 0 to 100%. So if you're interested in my DC fast charging videos for the Cooper SE, I'll put a link to those in the description of this video. Take a look down on the bottom. My experience charging the Cooper SE says that it will add 2.25 to 3 miles of range per minute. You notice we were talking miles per hour with level 1 and level 2. Now we're talking miles per minute. And it does that up to 80% state of charge, because at that point, that's when the charging rate starts to slow down and ramp down to top off the battery. So from 0 to up to right around 80%, you're going to add somewhere between 2 to 3 miles of range for every minute you're charging the Cooper SE. Well, that's it for our everything you need to know about charging the Mini Cooper SE video. I hope I got to everything that you had questions about. If I missed something, leave it in the comment section below. I'll try to get you the answers that you seek. If you like what we're doing here at State of Charge, please subscribe to this channel, ring the notification bell, give me a like on this video, all that good stuff, so you don't miss any upcoming content, and thanks for watching.